San Onofre Beach, infamous for its nuclear power generating station, sits less than 100 feet from the ocean waters. The plant hasn't been generating power since 2014, but until the federal government finds a permanent place to store the waste, it will continue to sit here on the beach. Over the past 8 years, the plant has slowly been decommissioned, but until the federal government finds somewhere to properly store the waste, it's going to stay right here on the ocean.
At this point in time, San Onofre, the land that the San Onofre sits on, right now that nuclear plant is being dismantled. What's holding it up is this, until we can move this spent nuclear fuel, it's always going to be on site there at the beach, and that's negatively infecting, and there's no end in sight at this point in time.
I would say going to that beach, I definitely didn't feel that safe. You hear things, especially that the nuclear power plant is getting shut down, like what does that entail? What does that mean? Where are they taking it? How are they taking it apart? How is that going to affect the beach since it's so close? And I did feel really uncomfortable because we were the only ones in the water. I was like, is there something that I don't know about that I should be aware of? Reflecting on it probably would have been nice to think about or know, especially because that's not something that you should be taking lightly, especially when it comes to people's health.
Overall, there's been a lot of concerns about how the spent nuclear fuel is stored, but I think everyone is in agreement that the best thing to do is to remove the spent nuclear fuel from the site.
Congress picked a site. It was Yucca Mountain in the state of Nevada, and they built it. It's done. It's complete. This is where it's supposed to go, but unfortunately, politics came into play, and Senator Harry Reid, who led the charge to stop putting any spent nuclear fuel at this site.
Right now in the United States, there's no place to store this, and it's really a national problem.
Many cities or communities aren't willing to allow spent nuclear, if we were able to put it on a train track or put it in train cars and contain it and everything, they don't want it to come through their communities. Unfortunately, that's what's happening right now. Congress hasn't acted responsibly, in my opinion.
The lack of action from the federal government has led to the nuclear waste being stranded in the now shut down nuclear generating station. With the waste remaining on site and a continued disregard from Congress, the waste will sit here for thousands of years. Any and all time that the waste stays on site poses a risk for the local beachgoers and the natural environment, which so much wildlife calls home. This is a problem that is universally agreed upon, and both parties politically agree that the waste needs to be dealt with, and fast. The lack of action and irresponsibility from the federal government is the root of the problem, and the residents of San Onofre are now having to pay for it.
We all understand it. This is kind of a catastrophe waiting to happen. There's no real bipartisan issue here at all. We all understand it needs to be dealt with. But
decommissioning can take as long as 60 years. So it's a very long process, and there's a number of different agencies that are involved in that. So the Southern California Edison works very closely, first with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, which is part of the Department of Energy, and then they also have to work with a lot of other permitting agencies, such as the California Coastal Commission, state lands. So it's a very, very, well, I won't say convoluted, but it's a very complicated process, and it requires a lot of oversight from all of these different agencies.
So that will eventually, the entire plant will be torn down, and just this graveyard of spent nuclear fuel is going to be on site and left there until we can find a place to put it.
Nuclear power in general provides about 20% of the electricity for the entire country. And there's about 90 plus nuclear power plants that are providing that. And it provides 55% of the carbon-free energy for the country. So now, as the plant is being decommissioned, one of the byproducts of the process that it used to generate electricity is spent nuclear fuel.
Speaking to a layperson, is we've got this spent nuclear, this radioactive fuel that's still going to be around for thousands of years. We don't have a proper place to put it. We don't have a place to store it. And that's what we're pushing. That's the effort. It's up to Congress to act on this and get us a site.
Nuclear power is a very important form of energy. It creates a much smaller carbon footprint than other forms of energy, and it is significantly more powerful. But this power needs to be cared for if we want to make sure that it remains safe. Facilities need to be properly prepared to store and contain this nuclear waste. San Onofre is an incredible example of how not to handle this situation.